As promised, here is my part 2 to my episode 9 from season 3 of Bel Air breakdown. If you missed it, I did do a part 1, and you can check that out by clicking the link in the description box or clicking up above in the cards. And if you don't know, I'm your good sis, Let's Talk TV with Erica Vane, right here on Erica Vane TV. Alright, I'm going to go back to Carlton because I thoroughly expressed my frustration, my disdain, if you will, about him, how he responded to Will specifically. I'm sorry, y'all, if y'all can hear like a little bit of scratching. I'm actually taking my braids out while trying to record this, so y'all gotta bear with me. But I didn't speak about his struggle with the grief behind Amira's almost death and not being able to have access to her. So in this episode, we get to see that her mom is not allowing him to see her. He keeps going to her house and he's dropping off flowers, and he really just wants to talk to her and is unable to do so. And he also, a lot of his animosity and venom towards Will is spurred by his feelings about Amira. And this is exactly why I felt like he was never ready for Amira, why I felt like Amira was too much of a person, too much of a big personality, too much of a fully actualized human with a lot of problems that he has yet to deal with, face, so he would never even know where to begin, even though he is a very complex human in and of his own right. I always just felt like Amira was out of his league, and this is specifically why. In moments like this, when she is hitting rock bottom, when she attempted to take her life, when she's overdosed, and this is the fallout, he immediately defaults back to his childlike ways and his childlike understanding. And it requires a certain level of maturity to be able to enter in to handling, dealing with, supporting her through like Amira and all of the things that come with her. In this episode, he finds out from her mom that she lied about the sister, and it's almost unmoved, almost unchanged, but that changes things. Like, to be able to love Amira is one thing, but to be able to love her and still fully see her and her flaws and actualize her flaws as that, actualize her lies as that, is important. In the way that Carlton disassociates the two, or kind of like rose-colored glasses, the negative parts, only specifically for Amira, continues to affirm for me how unready for her he actually is. Because with Amira, when it's bad, and you can't pretend like it's good. Meanwhile, you're holding on to every little mistake, every indiscretion, every time your dad saved Will, and you told any of his, what you perceive to be narcissism or selfishness over him as like the scarlet A being marked on him, but Amira gets to skate free because you quote unquote love her. That is not actually fully how love works. Yes, love can be butterflies in your stomach and deep longing and thinking about somebody constantly, sometimes obsession, but love also comes with a certain level of accountability. Love, true love to me, means having a certain level of honesty. And Carlton don't have that with Amira. Carlton has built Amira up to be this fantasy girl, one that helps save him in rehab, and then now he hopes to save while also still struggling to save himself. And you can just never do both in the exact same moment. In this episode, we watch him grapple with potentially relapsing, and there's people coming through at very crucial times, like a voice note from his mom, or Connor deciding not to actually sell him or give him drugs because he refuses to be the one that makes him relapse on day 72. Shout out to Connor, you still a racist, but you trying to grow. And those things are actually helping, but ultimately it's going to be Carlton finding the strength, making the decisions within himself to actually stay sober, which we do see him actually do by the end. But I am still very awestruck. If I put aside my disappointment in how he treated Will and how he berates Will so easily when he gets into moments of like anguish and frustration and anger, if I put aside that and just go to the journey of him attempting to relapse but then not actually doing it and staying strong in sobriety, it's kind of something of note. But I'm still on very shaky ground as an audience member because it still feels like he could relapse at any moment. And I think that's something that's very true to the journey of any type of drug addict or a person with an addictive personality to anything. But I still left this episode, while not necessarily wanting to discard Carlton completely, still kind of over him and what I feel like is his lack of growth. But again, in pointing out how uncomfortable this episode was and how honest it is, I think that Carlton's journey specifically in this episode does a really great job of showing the non-linear journey of progression, and how so often for you to progress over the course of a long period of time, there are quite a bit of peaks and valleys, and there's quite a bit of regression that happens along the way. And when you zoom out and you look at it, it's like, oh, how far I've come. But in the moments that you're actually doing the one foot in front of the other, sometimes you're actually backtracking. And I do believe that we got to see a lot of that in this episode with Carlton. Now, moving on to Will, who I really came out of this episode very, very proud of. I never anticipated he was actually going to cop to the wrong and go to Fred himself. And even them making the choices cinematically to intercut the scene of him going to go, pull Fred's ear and knocking on the window while Carlton might relapse and the lady comes to bring him his wallet. I thought that was actually brilliant cinematically. Shout out to them for that and how they meld visual and story. But Will decided to cop to being there and just trying to get Jazz off the hook and show up and just really be accountable for his decision was such a really big piece of evidence in the case that Will has grown and Will has changed. So while people have berated him this episode, including Lisa, I know some of y'all weren't feeling her when we talked about this on live. A lot of people pointed that out. But I think him hearing the criticism, him hearing the honesty from people, and him being called out in the moment of trying to force everybody to move forward. And I think that he does it by, okay, we got to make a decision about black sets. I truly don't believe that he was pushing the whole, we got to pick an investor simply because he didn't care about the whole Amir incident. I think that Will goes out of his way and works very hard to try to make everything okay and try to be better. And he's constantly in a state of trying to prove himself. And he doesn't do well with just sitting in the unknown, sitting in the uncomfortable, sitting with the feeling of not knowing what to do next. So he's always trying to do something, and in moments like this where there's really nothing to do but to just let feelings and thoughts wash over you, it can feel a little abrasive or can feel a little bit dismissive for a person to just try to push forward. But it's just the way that he processes most things, including anguish, including nervousness, including anxiety and fear. So I really, really enjoyed watching Will in this episode and him dealing with those things. Him, initially being defensive about it, but then ultimately sitting with it, which I think speaks to his growth as well, because the Will that we met in season 1 just was on the defense and he wasn't really considering any of the very poignant points that people might have made, no matter how emotionally they made them. All right, now let's talk about little Mr. Fred, who apologized without apologizing. Yes, I'm of the camp of if you don't actually say the words "I'm sorry" or "I apologize" or "I deeply regret my behavior in this regard," I would love for you to accept X, Y, and Z amends, then it's not actually an apology. So you just saying I made mistakes, that's not a damn apology. But Fred actually calls Vivian in and asked her to continue to show up for them, and he's starting to see all of the things that she was trying to point out, and his deceased wife and her former best friend would really love it if she continued to show up. And of course Vivian is just so graceful, and I'm just looking at him Negro, because I can't the way that men specifically get to move about this world with such, not necessarily ease, because there is a struggle to, black manhood in America, but because of the patriarchy, y'all get to move with a certain level of entitlement. You get to move without apology most of the time, even when your ass is dead ass wrong. And the audacity to keep asking for help from someone who you continue to throw any type of actual acceptance of accountability and support and resources from when she tried to offer it to you is beyond me. And then to do so without an apology is just so disgusting, honestly. I get it, Vivian's going to do whatever she needs to do specifically for Lisa because she gets the bigger picture, but I need more men to start getting the bigger picture and getting it earlier on. Getting it earlier on before you start traumatizing women who are just trying to support you and your damn daughter and your newly white wife who is now going through postpartum and struggling. Can you please, you did all of this, you kicked up all of this dust, you were so defensive and disrespectful, all for you to just arrive here and say, basically, you were right, can you please help me fix my life? And then some of y'all be looking at us crazy when we turn around and say, no, nigga, I can't, I'm done. Not that I thought that Vivian was going to do that, but Fred deserves that of all the damn people, but alas. So Fred and Lisa ain't going nowhere moving forward, and I love that because I actually really adore the Lisa character. Okay, aside from that, all I missed in the previous breakdown was Drew, who has, changed aesthetically. He shifted a bit. Interesting. And he is the son of the investor who Will chose for Black says. So now they have to, I guess, do what the hell Drew says because his daddy pulls the purse strings. Drew is here on sinister ideas, sinister missions, and I don't trust him, partly because you also look too damn different, and it's giving very Ken Barbie. It's giving, oh, you think you're down for the people, and because you know that you're Black in this Bel Air space, you believe that you are different or whatever. And I'm not going to say that he's not Black, but you just rode up on a golf cart talking about something, oh, I was vacationing in the south of France. And yes, Black people do that too, but I don't like the way that you did it, and I don't trust you. Going on to episode 10. Let's get into that breakdown.